I just think it's because we're Black in America, and you know, we all kind of have a similar starting point. Black culture, because we all started from our ancestry, at least Black Americans, our ancestry being slavery, we all have a similar starting point. Now, we might have in the Great Migration stayed or gone, but the starting point of certain things are the same, whereas the starting places for other cultures, at least in America, is not the same.
Black Twitter and Twitter more generally is credited with spawning several cultural and social justice movements, as well as the demise of some careers. So you all talk about TV personality and chef Paula Deen, who in 2013 posted a picture of her son in brown makeup as I Love Lucy character Ricky Ricardo. Black Twitter went in on her. What did that particular moment represent?
I remember that moment because I remember every Black person at the time used to like mess with Paula Deen because it was like she cooked with a bunch of butter.
Mess with meaning we liked her.
Yeah, we liked her. Yeah, we like, you know, she cooked food like, you know, different than sort of like a lot of the white women chefs on TV, right? She was like a thicker white woman. She embraced butter. She like felt like she ate food, right? Not sort of like
it was
food.
Southern.
It was Southern. It was very much in that way, and I think that so it felt like you could see yourself reflected in like the things she talks about, at least food wise and, you know, culturally. And that moment I think is so interesting because, you know, typically before social media, you might have those like kind of outrage is the wrong thing, but frustration or anger.
Someone does something.
Yes, and you're kind of saying it to your girl, you're saying it to your friend, but you're saying it in barbershops, you're saying it at work, you're saying it just when y'all going out for drinks, but it doesn't have a lot of resonance. Maybe somebody writes an article and maybe, you know, and you share, but it also, the article also might just be in Essence magazine or it might be in a Black publication. So the mainstream world at large, typically I would sort of say like white America, isn't privy to how we feel about those things.
And what you're saying is so important in that we're in a different time period where there's more silos and more guardrails to prevent folks from seeing that bigger picture. But at the time when Twitter was really burgeoning, you were able to see those conversations being had. Black Lives Matter was a hashtag that originally started on Facebook but then took hold on Twitter. Take us back to that time period, that hashtag. It really was a real life social justice movement, a movement that we know today. Do you remember when you first interacted with it?
You know, around Trayvon, Ferguson time.
2012, 2013.
Yeah, so I was then. So, you know, it's tough when you're, especially when you're, I have kids and I have two boys, so obviously Trayvon hit in a totally different way. But I just remember everywhere and certain groups of people, and obviously you see ways in which you got appropriated and misinterpreted and, you know, all kind of crazy stuff. You see anything with the word Black in it in America, because it's, even when we were talking about what the title of this doc is going to be, right, it becomes like, okay, well, the second you put Black in something, is it turning off people because they're going to like hear it away, see it away? And obviously Black Lives Matter as a hashtag did make people feel away.
Thinking back to that moment when Black Lives Matter as a hashtag took hold on Twitter, it also became a megaphone, especially for us to understand what was happening in other places throughout the country, like Ferguson. We know about Ferguson and we know about Michael Brown because of that hashtag on Twitter. How did that inform the mainstream media coverage of that time period?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, right, like, you know, Janetta Elzie, who was the first person to, you know, kind of be posting about it.
About Ferguson. She flew there from where she was living, to cover it.
And talking about it, and again.
And live tweeting it.
Yeah, and live tweeting everything that was happening. And I think, you know, obviously, you know, what was happening in Ferguson isn't the first time that's happening in this country, right? There's a lot of that. But I think what Twitter allowed, which is kind of like, which we say in the doc, it's like a printing press and a TV studio on your phone. You know, so much of, even when I started film school, right, like in the 90s, you know, like video didn't exist like that yet. Like you had to shoot on film, process on film. So the process of doing anything visual like that is so expensive, right? And so obviously, you know, my people don't own a bunch of television stations. We don't own a bunch of news cameras. We don't own a bunch of these things. So the idea that the technology could, where finance is not a hurdle to tell a different narrative, changes everything, right? So now what Janetta Elzie is doing can get just as many views as what CNN is doing. That's power. That's so powerful.